And there you have it, folks. That's a wrap. The London Lightning and Halifax Hurricanes do battle here at Budweiser Gardens. Game 4, and the Halifax Hurricanes walk away with a 1-point win in an exciting game, 99-98. I'm Audley Stevenson. Aaron Sanders joining me for the Barron Championship ring post-game wrap, and boy, it was a good one. First off, very physical game, which it has been all series long, Aaron, but it's interesting that when you talk about how this game gets closed out, on the free throw line of all places.
Well, the free throw line, obviously, and I talked about this before plenty of times, you know, the free throws could make you or break you. Right. You live on the free throws, you die on the free throws, same with the threes. But you got to give credit to both clubs who came out in the clutch for free throws. Let's first talk about Mike Glover and the strong game he had. He finished up with 17 points, but all those points didn't matter because it's those 2 free throws that mattered the most with about 2 seconds to go that really sealed the deal for the Hurricanes, and boy, what a monster game he had.
It's interesting because, you know, you say, as you talk, when you think about Mike Glover's game, he had such an impact, his presence inside, and obviously you'll want to take advantage of that. So to say he only had 17 points, it feels like so much more because the impact was that strong.
Especially when things come down to the wire with a few seconds to go. But Mike Glover, a guy of his stature, I mean, you gotta be serious when you talk about this guy. Guy could run down. He is like a bulldozer in the paint. And for him to dominate not only inside, but at the charity stripe, at the end of all that, it just goes to show how much more skills he has had and how much he has progressed throughout the whole season.
Yeah. You know, this was an important game for the London Lightning. Game 4, obviously, you know, Game 4 in any series means an opportunity for one team to go up 3-1 or the other team to get some life, and it's tied 2 games apiece. In this instance, the Halifax Hurricanes have gone up 3-1, and that changes the complexion because now the London Lightning, they got to win 3 straight games to win a championship.
Well, for London, I mean, this is a do or die situation, as you mentioned, Audley. Friday night is going to be a big one for them because it's not the free throws that matters the most, it's how they communicate on the court as well. I've seen so many times there have been miscommunications on the court where they've been dribbling too much, especially outside. The shooting didn't matter the most, it was just the ball handling of the Lightning. For Halifax, they got to learn, they have to remember they cannot take any of those wins they had for granted. It's game 5 soon enough. And, you know, anybody could come back from a 3-1 deficit. But if I can recall correctly, there's been a few times where teams could come back from 3-1 deficits but cannot finish the deal. So for London, it's a big burden on their shoulders, a lack thereof. But for the Hurricanes, they just have to keep composure and just remind themselves it's just another game. Just think of it as the series is now wiped away. It's 0-0.
Right. It's almost as what you did before doesn't matter anymore because you're starting from scratch to get that game. We talked about Mike Glover, and I think it's a good opportunity to throw to his post-game comments. And he talks a little bit about, you know, wiping his slate clean and looking forward ahead. So here's Mike Glover, the beast.
You know, like it's a high intensity environment. You know, I love. You know, we all love playing. You know, in environments like this, it kind of gives us that extra push. We knew that London wasn't going to back down. They was going to fight the whole 48 minutes. We just found, you know, the inner toughness within us within the last 2 minutes of the game, and you know. I didn't win this game tonight. I want to thank, you know, like the rest of my 11 players. I think we gave a full team effort, and we look forward to Game 5 on Friday. The play was actually for Shane. I just happened, you know, Cliff happened to just find me in great position. I tried my best to, you know, try to score over the basket. You know, the ref called the foul. I missed about four or 5 free throws prior to the last 2. So luckily, just, you know, buckle down, concentrate on just knocking down the free throws. All along, you know, like once my name is called, to go out there and perform and sacrifice and, you know, do all the dirty work. And I think I did pretty much a good job of that tonight. You know, my teammate Cliff just told me, you know, to just, you know, that shot is over with, just worry about the next one. And, you know, that pretty much helped me out a lot throughout the game. And, you know, just worry about the next one. You know, make the next one. Yeah. Well, we look at it that, you know, they're not dead yet. They're on the floor looking up. So we know that they're going to come back Friday, hungry, prepared, because it's want to go home. And, I look forward to another tough environment, just Friday up here at the Budweiser Gardens. So we know it's going to be tough. We just have to continue to, be ourselves and continue to play 48 minutes of team defense.
Aaron, listening to Mike, give a lot of props and loves to his teammate, it really makes sense when you look at the grand scheme of things. You don't win this game by yourself. And a guy that we absolutely got to touch on is Justin Johnson. Being quite frank here, I don't think he's had a great series thus far. On the end of game 3, clutch free throws down the stretch. But you saw early on, he was being aggressive. He was looking for a shot. He finished with 17 points. And he's one of these guys. He's one of the guys that Halifax Hurricanes needs to have some kind of showing that's positive for the club.
Absolutely. I think of it as a dynamic duo. Justin Johnson, Mike Glover, two physical players, if you will. They're creating a great big wall for Halifax, driving inside the hoop, making sure they go off screens. So their main game is in the paint. And when you have those two dynamic duos come together, especially in a big of a crucial series as it is, the NBL Finals, folks, it goes to show how important the camaraderie and teamwork is for this Halifax Hurricanes team, which has been the theme throughout the whole year.
It certainly has. They don't have, and it's not often. I mean, one thing that Halifax that stands out to me is, from game to game, who knows who your leading scorer would be? Who knows who that guy might be to lead the club? And London Lightning very similar as well, and that's why it's not a surprise that two of the top two teams are meeting in the finals. So it only makes sense. I think we want to throw it to Coach Hugo Lopez. I mean, the one thing I kind of think about is, with him, how does he keep his guys from getting over the edge and getting too excited? And keeping in mind that the job isn't done yet. And we're going to have to ask Hugo about that.
We just got to calm down a little bit. We make a big step, but I mean, it's still a long way to go. We got to give a lot of credit to London. They're a good team. They're really professional. And they got good players. So we just got to take one at a time. Any team could have won that game, you know what I'm saying? We're coming down the stretch. It came down to the foul shots. They made them, we made them. So, I think we fought really hard, to get this game, even though when we were behind 4 or 5 points, we got the lead with like 1 minute and a half. They came back, they got a lot of heart, but we believe in ourselves. We got the last ball. I think we ran a good play. We found Mike Glover close to the basket. They fouled him, and he wasn't having like a good night in the free throw line, but he made the last two. That's what it counts.
Keeping calm and composed is the name of the game, and that's exactly a tough task for Hugo Lopez. Again, we're all humans and we get excited and recognizing, because if you think about it, you've been working all season long, from December 26th when the ball got tipped off to open the regular season, all the way till June where we're at now, and you're one game away from achieving your goal. And that's why I say it's such a tough task to keep your emotions in check.
It's a tough 6-month war, like you mentioned, from start to finish. And during the beginning of the season, you're just finding your niche, finding, how your teammates work and how you could collaborate with them, make things better. But Halifax, they've been the total package throughout the whole year. They didn't suffer as most people would think. Top of the Atlantic Division, the cream of the crop. And for them just to come here and be one win away from the NBLC's coveted prize, it just goes to show how much heart you put into a team and how much a coach could really make the difference for a team.
As you say the word heart, you can't help but not think about Akeem Scott. He definitely is the engine of this team since coming over near the tail end of the regular season. He had another phenomenal game with 26 points. He had a triple-double the last game, and it was a first in franchise history. But what stood out to me certainly in that last game is at the end of the game, and I was on this very court. We were shooting a post-game show, and he was behind us shooting free throws because he himself wasn't impressed with his 5 for 10 performance from the free throw line. And that speaks to what this guy does. And again, Hakeem Scott, he is the guy for this club.
All heart, all motivation. That's Hakeem Scott for you. I was here a couple of nights ago seeing him, and I had the feeling that he was dejected from his performance despite a triple-double. So it goes to show how much importance, the negatives are from the positives. You ever heard of the saying, accentuate the positives? But in these games where you lose a couple of more down on the road, lose a couple of tough ones, that really stands out the most, because that's what people will be talking about, and that's what yourself will be thinking. It's the mind, body, and spirit of the negatives. But he had a virtuoso free throw display here this evening.
Yeah, fantastic job for Akeem Scott. As we continue on the London Lightning and we talk about the positives, Stephen Maxwell is another guy that I want to touch on. He had 20 points tonight, but when you look at the job that he has to do, he's got Mike Glover on the inside, he's got Kyle Hunt, he's got Ronaldo Dixon, he's got the bigs, the Billy Whites. He's contending with all of those guys on the inside defensively, and he's got to come back on the other end and score offensively as well. And he's an important guy for the London Lightning because he's an energy player. He's this active guy. He just kind of gets at it, and they need him. And I think this game is a perfect example of him just bringing it.
I have a feeling it's like a David versus Goliath story. This whole week of the NBLC Finals, a London Lightning built on speed, Halifax Hurricanes built on depth and precision and the body. But the Lightning, they had the advantage of it throughout. Their transition game has been very well. But driving down, that's where the key is the most for the Lightning. Driving down on the transition game, finishing strong. That's why you have small guys like Warren Ward and Nick Okorie and all those other guys that are doing the work, because they have enough speed to topple down the Hurricanes defense, because they can't all just run and block the shots. But when you have Okorie and Ward and Akeem Scott, as you mentioned, to drive down, that could really crush down the Halifax defense, because now they have to think to themselves, okay, do we have to step up, play man-to-man, or set up a 1-4 high? I mean, the choice is yours, but London has been working on the transition game and especially their free throw shooting, as you mentioned earlier before.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, and I agree wholesheartedly. I think this is a great opportunity for us to jump into our chat with head coach Kyle Julius of the London Lightning. Quite frankly, he wasn't impressed. He was very frustrated, and you'll hear from him right now.
We made turnovers we made bad turnovers. We audibled several plays that I didn't know why throughout the course of the game. And at the end of the game, in the timeout, we had our big guy on the sideline. That was the plan, to have our big guy pressure the ball, and the guys on the court changed it, and we ended up having our smallest guy on the ball, and it was no time for me to correct it, and they just entered it in easily. I mean, I was frustrated last game, frustrated the game before, and if you watch me through most losses this year and most bad decisions and most uncharacteristic plays of us, yeah, I'll get frustrated. I'm frustrated right now. You have to look at it as a whole, and when you look at it as a whole, we weren't very good, anywhere. We weren't very good anywhere. And at the end of the game, it's not one play. It's never one play. But that last play was an example of some of the bad decisions that we made throughout the course of the game. We audibled a couple sideline inbounds that resulted in turnovers. The guys audibled them, and then that last play was an audible. We originally had a big on the sideline, and the guys decided to change it for whatever reason, and it was too late for me to correct that. And it resulted in an easy entry from the sideline into the post, which is textbook as to why you have a big on the sideline, right? It's about certain things that we're trying to execute and certain things we're trying to do on a regular basis. So for me, I look like it's another game that we're going to have to get better for, and another game that we're going to have to execute. I couldn't care less if it's an elimination game or not. Approach it the same way as if it was the home opener.